Hey everybody, Taz from Critical Thinking Anarchist here. So, I wasn't going to get in on this whole Last of Us Part 2 thing. I don't consider myself a gamer anymore. I used to be an avid gamer from the time I was about 6 years old until about 2011. After that, I pretty much stopped buying new video game consoles and rarely bought video games. Until 2018, I played World of Warcraft off and on over the years, and I also played Hearthstone fairly regularly, but it was very casual. I never really did try to go for legend status. And I played that until the whole Blitzchung thing. I did follow streamers like Trump, Kibler, Disguised Toast, Amaz, Ali Straza, and a few others. But most of my gaming days prior to WoW and Hearthstone were around the NES and SNES games and several PC games. To show you how bad it is, my last console was an Xbox 360. I bought it with tickets from Dave and Buster's because I didn't want to give Microsoft money, and I'm definitely not going to give Sony money, so I never bought a PlayStation of any kind. So anyway, I've been following the likes of Neurotic, Yellow Flash, Heel vs. Babyface, and Geeks and Gamers, which has a new website, and add me on there under TazJam, and a few others, especially after the Naughty Dog Muso Sony copyright BS. I felt they all did a very good job of covering the issues as they saw fit, and really didn't think I had a reason to add any more to the story as I have zero experience with The Last of Us in any way, and I'm not personally affected by any of the situations, though I definitely support those who are erroneously struck by Naughty Dog. However, on Friday, June 9th, I stumbled across a video by Alana Pierce, as shown here. Alana is a former IGN reviewer who is now a streamer or YouTube creator, and she was upset by the accusations that the reviews were all shill. She does admit that she does have some bias, as many of the people who are reviewing the game are friends or colleagues of hers, and she is even friends with Troy Baker, who is one of the voice actors in Last of Us Part 2. But that she didn't feel the game deserved a 10 rating, but that she also felt that each of the reviewers were genuine. I'll link to this video below. You can judge for yourself based on what she says. She then stated she had planned on having a bunch of the reviewers come on her channel to have a discussion about their takes on the reviews, which we'll get into in a little bit. In the meantime, she brought up how Metacritic, the main game for the main site rather, for aggregate video game scores is broken, and how it scores those games even compared it to Rotten Tomatoes, which we all know has been broken since Captain Marvel, but was broken even before that. So if we take a look at Metacritic, we can see that it offers scores based on a base 100 scale. However, almost nobody in the critics realm bases their scores on 100 points. Critic scores are usually based on 5s or 10s. So if we actually take a look here, no, it doesn't actually show it. On Rotten Tomatoes, of course, it actually shows. Oh, well, it does kind of show. So you got, so these would all be, oh wow. Maybe these ones actually do have base 100s, since they're 9, 95, 94, 98. But most of the hundreds are going to be 5s and 10 scores. So critics are usually out of 5 or 10 points or stars or whatever. And when you look at Rotten Tomatoes and go to the actual critics version, they're usually kind of the same when you actually get into it, rating 2.5 of 5, 1.5 of 4, 2 of 5, 3 of 5. And in fact, if you break down the Rotten Tomatoes scores, see the score details, you used to be able to see actual scores versus fresh and rotten with the critics. So there used to be an option here that would actually show the scores of them. They've now removed that feature and just say, oh, here you go. This is what you're getting. So now you can only see the fresh and rotten versions. So on a Rotten Tomatoes score, rotten is any score lower than 50%. So if someone gives it more than 50%, it's fresh score. 50% is failing in school. Even if you lower the bar and consider 50% watchable but not entertaining, 60% is entertaining but not good, and 70% or higher is good, you would still never recommend a movie that's lower than 60% to friends. But to Rotten Tomatoes, that's a good score. Then there's the unscored reviews. Now, Alana brought up a good point about Metacritic that I noticed about Rotten Tomatoes as well. In Rotten Tomatoes, often aggregates reviews and calls unscored ones fresh, despite there being no score to derive from. Again, as we can see here, there's quite a few that don't actually have scores on them. And if you sometimes go to their full review, we'll take a look here. Doesn't actually have a score anywhere in here. Just reviews it. But apparently, according to Rotten Tomatoes, that's a fresh. I guess because he called it perfectly adequate. Who knows? So Rotten Tomatoes often aggregates reviews and calls unscored ones fresh, despite there being no score to derive from. Many times, those particular reviews are the balanced pros and cons ones. Apparently, Metacritic, if we take a look again here, actually has unscored ones as well. But she says that over time, they actually will try to score them based on their reviews. Now, I don't know if someone actually goes in and does that, or if they just give them, a rating at some point and just throws it up there. Who knows? So anyway, the actual reviewers, of course, get their say. So when you get to the user ones, you have obvious ones. And to review the score, you go 1 through 10. And when it comes out on a scale of 10, but with a decimal point. So, of course, it ends up being like a scale of 100. So, okay. Now that we've established all of what the review sites, what does this mean for scoring systems? When it comes to the general public, not much at all. We're going to rate things how we rate things. We have a specific view. In the case of Last of Us Part 2, many of the audience reviews are coming from those of us who watched the leaks unfold into a massive shit show from Sony, Naughty Dog, and their bitch company Muso TNT as they copyright claims struck and harassed innocent creators on YouTube and Twitter. Some of the people did deserve to be claimed or warned. Striking should have been a last resort. But that's all another issue. Many people will review bomb the site without having played the game, just like others will review bomb the site positively despite actually feeling that the game is not worth a 10 or even playing it sometimes in their cases, I guess. So okay, we've addressed the audience. We've addressed the site's favor shill reviews even when those reviews aren't actually shill. So what about the media themselves? Are they shill or are their scoring systems broken? Still got a little more breaking down to do. If media companies don't allow their employees to break down scores and use fractions of a score, their scoring systems are broken. Let's start with the most basic, the 5-star review. If you can't break those stars into fractions of stars, if you have to base a game off 5 points, then most games are going to be 4 or 5-star games unless they're crap. Each star or point is worth 20% of the overall score. 20%. Again, let's go back to school. You take a 5-question quiz, you get 2 questions wrong, and you've pretty much failed the quiz. When reviewing a game out of 5 points, you have to decide if any flaws are worth 20% of the grade each time. There are several sites that list 5 out of 5s for The Last of Us Part 2, and I have to think most of the reviewers probably would have given the game lower marks, but felt it was closer to a 5 than a 4, and so couldn't do it. So next, There are the 10-point review or 5-star review with half stars available. This is what Metacritic gives to the audience, and this is what most media sites allow their reviewers to give. 10 points seems like it should be enough to be reasonably critical, doesn't it? You're not going to be able to break down every single thing in a meaningful fashion, but you should be able to get something worthwhile out of the score. But again, a lot of people feel like 10% is a lot to ding on a score, despite it being twice as lenient as the 5-star system. So, once again, reviewers are reluctant to hit games that they might want to give a 94 or 95%, so instead jump back up to 10. The best systems are going to be the ones that fully break down everything to a 100-point scale, or at least a 10-point scale, but in multiple categories. And have categories within the games of things like gameplay, graphics, story, replayability, etc. Those had actually started becoming common for a short while, but they require a very in-depth analysis of games, which can take several days to weeks to honestly score. From what Alana said in her first video, it sounds like they only got a few hours to play and score the game. Well, if you're not able to play through the entire game, how can you score and review it honestly? This is the biggest area where game reviews are broken. Reviewers are sometimes not given full copies or only allowed to play for a short while and have to base their reviews on very limited experience. So if they're not playing the full game, then their review cannot be trusted. We'll again relate back to the movies. Let's say a critic is watching a movie, but they only get 25% of the movie to watch before they have to review it. Well, if the director did a good job with the setup, they'll say it's great and give it full marks, despite the other 75% of it being unknown. If that's the case here, where reviewers only played the first 2 to 4 hours of a near 20-hour game, they base their review off of the 10 to 20% of the game. That's the part where you're playing as Ellie. That's the good part. So I watched parts. As it just happened to be on that one. I watched parts of Alana's second video, where she's got 5 journalists on here, and they're all her friends. Two of them, these two gave 5s, these two gave 10s, Alana herself gave a 7. Now within the video, I had to jump around a little bit. I didn't have time to watch the full hour and a half. I watched the first 25 minutes and then several minutes here and there within the video, but didn't get everything. However, right at this part, right about the 121 to 122 mark, she asks everybody about their thoughts on Joel's death and whether or not it was good, bad, or justified, or whatever. And again, they all missed the points of the contention with the general public. They all thought, yes, it was justified. They knew he was going to die, and nobody disputes that. Nobody has a problem with that. But it was the earliness of Joel's death within the game and the fact that Ellie never actually gets revenge and allows Abby to live after everything. That is what the general audience has a problem with. So what are we left with after Alana's original video, the follow-up, and the breaking down of the scoring systems and review sites? Well, we know for a fact that shill media exists. Sony itself has been caught multiple times paying for and faking positive reviews on movies and games, and it wouldn't surprise me if, in the least, if any of the reviews used by Naughty Dog were faked and paid for. We know that Access Media gets exclusive benefits, and they want to keep those benefits. Perhaps Alana was never coerced, and perhaps none of her 4 friends on the channel were coerced. But there are plenty of people who either are paid or are coerced to write good reviews for more benefits, or believe, for whatever reason, that they will lose those benefits by not writing positive reviews. We also know the scoring system sucks. We know that knocking a game down from an A to a B or a B to a C based on little things that people don't like is often too much for most people. So they just throw up a good review rating and hope people read their words to see what the problem games have. But words don't advertise like scores. Obviously, like most things in life, the truth is somewhere in the middle. There definitely are shill sites and shill reviewers who only care about what benefits them and what companies can do for them in terms of perks, but the scoring system doesn't make it easier to properly rate games. As always, thanks for thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe if you thought I was entertaining, and follow me on social media, links in the description below.